Hey, I am so glad you're here today. Can you believe it is January 14th already? I mean, y'all, 2026 is here. And I don't know if you have set some plans for yourself, for your family. What are some things you're working on? Well, I'm going to share with you today. My word of the year is complete. And the reason it's complete is because, listen, I am a girl who loves to dream big. You might know that about me. And I love the idea of things I want to do next. This past year, we finished the edit of A Year of Playing Skillfully. I'm excited that it was re released. It's selling great. I love that you're using it, giving me your feedback. But the other thing I hear over and over again in my DMs, on my comments, is what do I do in those earlier years, even before 3, where A Year of Playing Skillfully starts? So, for the past couple of years, I've really wanted to write something about infants and toddlers and how do we take care of them? How do we grow their brain? How do we nurture them? How do we help them discover, have a sense of wonder, connect with us and the world around them? How do we do it through play? So, guess what? This year, it is coming out. Not quite ready to tell you the title of it, but it's close. We're almost there with the title. We have it. We just got to get everything designed and formatted and all the things, and we'll release it and let you know. But I thought it might be fun to go ahead and just talk about some of the research that I'm finding, some of the information that, from my experience of those first 3 years, and also just what the brain research shows. And hopefully, this is going to encourage you if you are a young mom, or maybe you're a seasoned mom, but you're had a new baby join. It's so funny how many families, they'll get kids that are like 8, 10, 12, and all of a sudden a new baby arrives. And so I thought it might be good. Just let's talk about that. Let's have a casual conversation today about those first 3 years. Here's the thing that's so fascinating to me is that 90% of a child's brain is developed by age 3. What? That is crazy to me. 90% of a child's brain is developed by age 3. So it matters what we do. From those first moments when you see your baby, hold your baby, connect with your baby, and then on. So what I would like us to do is let's just first go through it. Let's go through the social emotional. Let's talk about the physical developments. Let's talk about the cognitive development, all the thing that happens. And I think with the social emotional, that's one that people think, I mean, what happens? The baby's just laying there, right? There's not a lot that's going on. You change them, you feed them, you put them to bed. There's so much more going on behind the scenes. We determined if a child grows up and feels safe about the world around them, if they don't have a strong attachment to their parents in those that first year or two, that really does change the way they view the entire world and their relationship with the world, with people in the world. So that is why securing that attachment, that making sure you're being intentional to connect with your baby. Now, how do you do that in those first years? How do you build those social emotional skills? Well, you know what? You got to take advantage of what you're doing. That means when you're feeding them, you're not feeding them the bottle and or nursing, whichever you choose, while you're over here scrolling on your phone, because you can listen, we all get pros at propping up that bottle and doing things. And I see so many parents on their phone while they're feeding their baby because you think, I mean, what does it matter? Baby's getting fed. This is a time I can check on things. You're missing valuable time with your children when you do that. This is one of the most important things. Harvard, they kind of coined the phrase like a tennis match, basically, back and forth. It's this back and forth between parents. You look at your baby, they look at you. You smile at your baby, they take that cue and learn to smile at you. You talk to your baby, they learn to talk back to you, cooing, making those noises, making gestures. They move their head to look at you. If you're giving them eye contact, that's how they learn to give eye contact back. So this time of feeding is actually such a precious, valuable time for working on that social emotional, building that secure attachment, helping them learn those cues, those facial expressions. Without us doing that, they're not going to learn it. The other thing, boy, it builds vocabulary. This is the time you're talking to your baby. You could even be reading a book to them. If you wanted to read and read that book out loud, looking at them, looking at your book, talking about the book, that kind of thing, that really does just help that social emotional growth. The other thing you want to do, you want to start identifying things. I see you're happy. Oh, you're sad now. Are you hungry? Do you need to be changed? That's building in them that information, that connection in their brain. Oh, I cry when I need something. And then you recognize that. Also, by you just showing up when they cry, that helps them know that they are safe with you. If you ignore that cry, what is that? That helps them detach, which is what we absolutely don't want. So they've got to trust that when they alert you by crying, by crawling over as they progress physically, those things, and they say, I need you, because that's what they're saying, and you respond, then you are building that emotional attachment to them. And they know that they can trust you. And that helps them see the world as a safe place, see other people in the world as safe as well. The other thing with this social emotional area of their life is that babies don't really even know how to regulate themselves. They don't know how to calm their nervous system when they get upset, and they really do rely on us. And I know there are some schools of thought that we teach babies to self soothe, but really that should not even be in your vocabulary in those first few years. You should be the one soothing the baby and helping them calm down. When you remain calm, when you see your baby's really upset, that you pick them up and you calm them and you're saying, it's going to be okay. I've got you. You're safe here with me. Those kind of phrases. That helps calm the baby's nervous system. And so, all of those social, emotional things that we can do in those early days, that's going to help them honestly for the rest of their life. And as they progress into toddlerhood, that social emotional, they start, having some separation anxiety. But what that says is, I need you. I want you. They're not trying to be like disrespectful. It's just how their brain is wired. Their brain is like, okay, they don't quite understand that concept of object permanence. They're getting it. But, when something leaves, is it gone forever? And that includes you. If you leave, are you gone forever or do you come back? And so saying things like, Mommy's going to be right back. I'm going to the grocery store and you're going to stay here with Nana. And then I'm going to be back. And then when you come back, reiterating that and say, here's Mommy. I came back. I went to the grocery store and I came back. And that helps them understand that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And while they might not grasp that whole concept because they can't understand abstract, they can't even understand a lot of your language. You're just laying that foundation for them to let them know. And that's always a good thing, no matter how old the child is. The whole sneaking out, yes, that's easier, but that does not help your child's development. You need to be honest and say, Mom's going to the store. Mom's going to go work out. Mom's going to come back. You're going to stay here with who? And then when you come back, see, Mom went to work out and Mom came back. That builds trust in your relationship with your child. And that's what you want. You want to build that trust with them. And then as they grow, they're going to recognize that. And then they're going to be able to build trust with other people because they developed that with you in those early years. So, really, those social, emotional moments, they really do just lay the foundation for who your child is. Like, can they trust other people? Can they feel safe in their environment? Do they understand social cues? Do they recognize body language, facial expressions, that words have power, that your tone, all of that is learned behavior from what you show them in those first few years. So it's very important that you don't discount that part of their development. And then moving on to their physical development. That's one, man, that's a fun one, right? It's real obvious when they're developing physically. You're going to see it first when they're holding their head. Literally it starts with a wobbly head, and then all of a sudden they can hold their head and you're like, oh, it's the greatest thing ever. Look, they're holding their head. And then that moves on to maybe they're rolling over, and then they start getting up on all fours and they're rocking back and forth, and then they start crawling, and then they pull up, and then they start cruising around. And then the big, big, big day comes where they take their first steps. And this gross motor development is big stuff because their body is learning balance. It's learning to take risk, when they let go of that cruising and try to take that first step, when they try to crawl and reach for something. Those are all very exciting times. Now, listen, some babies don't get the opportunity to do that. They're held all the time. They're passed back and forth to people. They're stuck in the little chairs or the swings or seats or bouncers, and their development is hindered because of that. It's so important that you're intentional with that physical development, that you encourage them, put them on the floor, let them try and move around. You want that. That is going to push them forward in that development. And then once they get that walking, all bets are off, right? Because then quickly we go from walking to running to climbing on everything. And all of that, again, is positive. Even when your kids climb, I hear so many parents like, get off that table's not for climbing, blah, blah. Kids are meant to climb. Their big muscles are growing so rapidly that if they don't move them, their development will literally slow down. So we need to encourage that big movement. You need to help them move, get them outside, stomp and jump. All of that regulates. Not only does that build connections in the brain when that physical movement is happening. I just wrote an article for Homeschooling Today that's going to come out in the spring. And it's about that very thing. It's about how when we're moving our bodies, we're building connections in our brain. So it is really developing cognitive skills as well as physical skills. Not only that, when we're moving our body, guess what? We're releasing dopamine. Our kids are going to be in a better mood when they move their bodies. So get them moving. The minute they're moving, you celebrate that and do that because that movement creates dopamine, and that dopamine raises the mood level in your child. And so you want to encourage that. You get to moving too. It might raise your mood too. The other thing that moving, big body movement does, develops critical thinking skills, executive function skills, because as soon as they can move, they start calculating the risk, don't they? Can I jump over there? Can I climb there? Can I swing from there? And so those risks help them understand balance, helps them understand their body limitations, helps them gain confidence, all which are good things. So you need to encourage that. The other thing that movement does, it helps a child regulate. So if you have a toddler who is melting down, and our toddlers melt down so much, back to social emotional for a minute, why do toddlers melt down? Often it's because they dysregulate because one, they don't have the words to say, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm frustrated. They don't have the emotional understanding. Their prefrontal cortex is so behind development of their limbic system, their emotional part of the brain. The emotional part of the brain is developed. So they're all emotion. But they can't think it through. Yet they don't have that's not developed yet until much later. It's one of the areas that's not developed yet. So when they get dysregulated, as any child does, that movement helps bring their body back into regulation. It literally calms the nervous system. It calms them so that they can take some deep breaths and they can regulate. Helps you regulate too. And you have to help them with that. They don't naturally know that. It's a skill that's learned. So you have to say, whoa, I see you're upset. You acknowledge it. You say, wow, those are some big, you must be angry. Do you know what helps with that? We're going to jump and see if we can jump that anger right out. We're going to see if we can jump that frustration. You know what? I'm going to run over here and see if you can run as fast as me. That disrupts too. It's a disruptor. It disrupts the big emotion. And they're like, wait, what? It also shows them not a big deal. We just move on. No, it's not that you're ignoring, you're stuffing, you're acknowledging. I see you're upset. I see you're angry. I see you're this. You acknowledge it, but then you help them overcome it. It's a coping skill. And so when they get older, they might learn that themselves. You see people, they're like, you know what? I'm having a frustrating morning. I need to go for a run. Or I've had a bad day. Can we go play tennis for a little while? Or I'm just going to go walk. I'm going to just get away and go walk. People often will get in nature. They'll get outside. They'll move their bodies when they, as adults, are dysregulated because they've learned that coping skill somewhere along the way. So if we can introduce that when our children are young, it is a great gift that we are giving them. And so don't underestimate the power of gross motor work and heavy work, pushing things around, lifting things, moving things. I think we should all get those big tires. If you ever saw the TV shows where people are lifting tires or somebody working out, maybe smaller ones for our kids, but just flipping and lifting and doing that heavy work. is another great way to calm the nervous system and to build those big muscles that they're going to need for later. So, not only in the physical developments, the big muscles, we also have to work on the small muscles, our fine motor skills, right? Those are the things that we're going to need for writing. They're going to need it when they start writing. They're going to need it when they start doing pencil and paper tasks for sure. But when do they do that? Not until much, much, much later. Holding scissors, all of those things that need little pincer grasp, fine motor skills. But even though you don't use that till much later, you got to start developing that in those early years. And you see that, you see it right away, right? Kids, they're born all fisted up. You see the little fist, and then they start opening, and then you see them just doing that automatic. When you put your hand in there, they close up, and then you see them start reaching and grabbing and holding toys. And then I think kind of like the fine motor equivalent to walking is when they finally use their pincer grasp. I think it's the cutest thing. And they pick up their tiny little Cheerio or their little, food on their table, not when they're grabbing, smashing, but they're picking it up delicately, so sweetly. That's so exciting, isn't it? Their fine motor. But that is a developmental skill that's going to help them hold a pencil later. So this is why it's important to let your kids feed themselves. Listen, I get that those squeezy pouches are so convenient. It cuts down on the mess, but our kids are missing so many fine motor and sensory opportunities by that happening. So I am a big fan of you just cutting up that food and you letting them go for it, and they figure out how to get it to their mouth, because that is developing so many fine motor skills and also really getting some sensory input that our kids are lacking today. We don't have our kids touching things like they used to. We've got to do that. That's going to build those fine motor skills and the sensory, which we'll talk about in the cognitive. So other things that build those sensory skills, moving objects from one to the other, giving them tops and letting them try to, put it. For example, if you use the old fashioned like baby jars or anything with a top, and then you could take a coffee can or with a plastic lid, put a slit in it, and they can just drop those lids, mason jar lids, whatever, drop those inside the jar. That moving, that sorting, that is all building fine motor skills. Play-Doh's another thing that builds fine motor skills. Clay, because again, that's heavy work for the fingers. Finger painting, where they're just moving that around. You can finger paint with paint. You can finger paint if you're not weird about food. You can do it with pudding, or you can do it with like whipped cream, or you can do it with shaving cream. There's so many things you can do. You can make the little gel bags, and you can do those if you're weirded out about mess. Even though the mess is so beneficial, I'm going to encourage you to embrace that mess. So fine motor skills, that's a really important one in those early years. So we've talked about social emotional. We've talked about the physical. Now let's talk about the cognitive. Now that's a bigger section, right? The cognitive, that's going to include our language. That's going to include our art and music. That's going to include our math and manipulatives. That's going to include our sensory and science. All those are under cognitive. So let's look at language first. Language. How do you build a baby, toddler, young preschooler's language? It starts with your vocabulary. You need to talk to them every chance you get. You need to build that vocabulary. And the best time to do that, again, is as you're doing those regular things. My favorite used to be changing the diaper. Changing a diaper, that you've got them. Prime target right there. They can't go anywhere. You're there for at least a minute or two. So you can say things like, whoa, that's a big poop. You can say things like, as I'm changing your diaper today, I just want to remind you that I love you. So you can make it a social emotional. You can say things like, you have on blue pants today and a purple shirt. Who picked that out for you? Who picked out the purple shirt and the blue pants? You can say things like, I put some socks on you and now they're gone. Where did your socks go? I wonder where your socks are. And you can see if they'll start looking around and recognizing as they get older what those words mean. You can say, we're in your room changing your diaper. Your room has so many fun things in it. I see your bed. I see your rocking chair. I see some toys and some books. You're building their vocabulary. You're helping them understand that words have meaning. Words have power. And also you can, as you're walking and holding them, just one thing we had at one of our houses that I loved, I had this big wall and I hung string and I just put photos of our family. And I mean, there were probably 100 photos on this wall and they were all just small photos. But if I had babies there, grandbabies at this point, I would walk them around to look at the photos and we would talk about the people in the photos. Some they knew, some they didn't, but I would say things like, "This is your great grandpa. And look at her glasses. Do you see her glasses?" Or, "Wow, this is the time we went to the zoo. We saw so many animals at the zoo. Do you see that giraffe in the background?" So again, building the vocabulary, words have meaning, words have power. So not only is it a language arts activity, cognitive, it is also what? It's a connection activity. It's a social emotional. Do you see how all these overlap? When you are intentional, it's amazing how many areas we really are reaching our kids. And do you know, you might say, what does it matter? Are they going to remember that time of connecting? You know what? They are. Now, they might not be able to replay that, but their body remembers it. Their bodies know that they were safe, they were attached, they were connected with in those early, early years. It so matters. And the vocabulary matters because without the vocabulary, the children aren't that interested in words and then they're not interested in reading. And so if you want kids who love to read and want to read, then you start by building the vocabulary. You start by being excited about words. That includes reading to them. Now, an infant and a toddler, you're not going to read a chapter book. You're going to sit down. It's going to be quick, or you might be walking around or you're on the floor, and you might know that they love to grab a book. So I usually start with a stack of books, board books for the littlest ones. And it's okay if we look at one page of one book and then they grab another book and we read one page of another. You don't have to finish a book. You don't have to say, wait a minute, I got to finish the Three Bears before we go to Goodnight Moon. You really don't. You can read one page of Goodnight Moon, one page of the Three Bears, and skip on to something else. That doesn't matter. Just getting the words and getting them connecting that words have meaning and them getting excited, feeling the book, touching the book, seeing the book, using their senses. That's all powerful part of language. And all of these are pre-reading skills that are going to get them ready to read. The other thing, tell stories. They can be short stories, singing songs. So that's music, part of cognitive, but it's also part of language, chants, and finger plays. If you've ever heard me talk in a conference, you know there's a song that I love called Blow the Balloon. So Blow the Balloon is a music activity, right? But it also is a social emotional. We're using imaginative play with it, which is, building executive function skills later. We're building vocabulary. And it's simple. It goes like this. Blow the balloon, blow the balloon. And I'm pretending to blow if you're listening to this and not watching. And blow, and blow, and blow. And my balloon pops. And I say, my balloon popped. What am I going to do? Should I blow another balloon? And it's so fun to watch little toddlers because they get drawn in. You think they're not going to pretend with you, but they do pretend with you and they get so excited about it. And then I'll say, what color do you think my new balloon should be? And they'll tell me a color and I'm like, do you have one in your pocket? Now, sometimes they'll say nope, but sometimes they'll say yes. And I'll go, well, and what color is yours? And so we're recognizing colors. We're identifying colors. We're using our language. We're using our rhythm. The brain connects with information so much better if you attach it to a rhythm. So we're using our rhythm. So do songs and chants, finger plays. Children love that. It brings them in. You want that to be part of your language and also part of that music. I'm a big fan of music. Turn music on and dance. That's moving their body and they're connecting to that music. It's another way to introduce that. If you play the piano with them. Play the piano for them. Let them sit with you. Let them bang on it. They're not going to grasp it yet, but you're introducing them. That's how a love of music is often developed. Art. Art's one of my favorite with little ones, and that can be so easy when they're young. You can do art, just process art. It's often a lot of sensory art, right? We're talking, again, shaving cream. One of my favorites is if you can find like a plexiglass mirror and you do that and you have kids can play with the mirror and you can put shaving cream on it and they can move across it. So it's a sensory and it's an art. Any kind of material that they can sticker down or glue down, just torn paper. The whole point of art is discovery. It's creativity. It's not to create something. It's not that we're making something, especially in the earliest years, at any time, really. It's whatever the child sees and creates with the materials that are available. So your job is just to have materials available, just to give the permission for children to touch it and to play with it and to create with it. And that is art. It can be Play-Doh, it can be clay, it can be glue, just glue and paper and torn paper. That's fabulous for a toddler. It can be paint, big movement paint. You can give them big brushes. You can give them rollers so that they can roll with water. You can give them spray bottles with paint. There's so many paint ideas you can do for toddlers. Math. Math is an easy one. As you go, do math. Count everything, sort everything, match everything. It's an easy one. Does that fit in here? Why? Say it. It's too big. It's too little. It's the wrong size. Doesn't fit. Building vocabulary, helping them recognize that that math is something we do together. That math is figuring it out, recognizing colors, recognizing shapes as you go. Wow, what shape is that orange? Wow, that cheese stick is long. That's a rectangle. Again, you get to identify that as you go. And it's just, that's the beautiful thing about hands on, play based learning. It is not anything paper. It is in life. It is natural. It is you just recognizing that everything is learning and you just bringing it into the life for them. That really is all play based learning is, even for these youngest learners. So, art, music, math, science, sensory, let them touch everything. If you see a bird, let them look at the bird until it flies away. If you see any kind of creature, let them explore it and have wonder about it and question it. And the biggest thing is curiosity. Let them discover it for themselves. Let them experience it. That builds wonder in them and that helps them stay curious. That starts really early on. Language. So we've gone over all of those with cognitive. That's the foundation for the first 3 years. Social emotional development, physical, gross motor, fine motor development, cognitive development. It all matters. You be intentional in those first 3 years, and you're going to be amazed at what an impact that foundation does for them for the rest of their life. If you have any questions about this, shoot me a DM, send me an email. And I'm so excited because this leads right into a year of playing skillfully. And if this is the kind of thing you want, then you need to check out a year of playing skillfully. It is for ages 3 to 7. You can use PS Podcast, save 10% on that. And I hope you find a way to say yes this week.